Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here this morning to commemorate this really important occasion. I also thank the Claremont RSL for inviting me to speak today. It truly is an honour. Today, I want to reflect on the role that our Northern Suburbs community played during the First World War, and on what ANZAC Day asks each of us today. In 1914, when Britain declared war on Germany, Australia answered the call. From Glenorchy and our surrounding areas, hundreds of men enlisted. Women stepped forward through local Red Cross and Salvos branches, organising fundraising efforts and supporting those at home. There was a deep sense of duty and a powerful spirit of community. A training camp was first established at Brighton, but water shortages soon forced its relocation here to Claremont, on the grounds that we stand on today. Positioned along the railway line and close to Hobart's embarkation point, Claremont became a vital military hub. What emerged was a tent city, home to 2,200 men. It was remarkably a self-sufficient community, complete with a laundry, dental surgery, hairdresser, fruit shop, and even a post office. Men initially lived in tents before corrugated iron huts were built on this land here. And here they trained, learning to handle weapons and to prepare for trench warfare. The Claremont camp would go on to be regarded as one of the best in Australia. But beyond the infrastructure and the training, it is the human story that matters most. In 1914, Glenorchy's population was just 3,731 people. Of those, 328 men enlisted. Sadly, 54 never came home. Many families sent more than one son to war. The Barwicks, the Hallams, the Martins, the Terrys, names that are still part of our community here today. And some families paid an even heavier price. The Laffer family from Collinsvale lost 2 sons. From Claremont alone, 61 men enlisted. 18 of them sadly died. That's the equivalent of around 9% of the local population at the time. To put that into today's terms, it would be like losing 775 young men from this community, 775 men from this suburb of Claremont alone. This loss is almost incomprehensible to comprehend, impossible to comprehend. And behind every number is a face, is a story. One of those stories is that of Len Millhouse from Moona. Len was just 15 when the war began, underage but determined to enlist. When asked why he joined, Len later said, "Because I was silly." But his story suggests something deeper than that. One day when riding his bike home from work, a woman called out to Len. She said, "Instead of trying to knock women over, you should be out at the front, fighting." That moment stayed with him. Despite his parents' reluctance, Len enlisted and began training here at Claremont. When he was given just 48 hours notice before his departure, he walked all the way home to Moona to say goodbye to his family. He sailed to Melbourne on what soldiers nicknamed the Old Rotten Banana. Speaking of his travels, he later recalled, "The ship rolled and buckled and we were packed in like sardines and hammocks, squeaking and squawking all night. By goodness, I was sick and it was my first time away from home." Len was one of the fortunate ones, relatively speaking. He served in France and suffered shell shock. He was even visited by the King in hospital. And then in early 1919, Len returned home. His most cherished memory was arriving back at Hobart's Ocean Pier, where his parents were waiting with their horse and cart. When asked how it felt to be back home in Moona, he gave a simple answer: beautiful. Today, as we gather here more than a century on, it is easy to let those stories fade into history. But ANZAC Day asks something more of us. It asks us to remember not just the scale of sacrifice, but the people behind it. Ordinary young men and women from communities just like ours who stepped forward in extraordinary circumstances. It asks us to recognise that the freedoms we enjoy today were not given lightly. And it reminds us that the spirit of those who served, the courage, the mateship, and the resilience is not just something to honour, but something for each of us to carry forward. ANZAC Day gives us an opportunity to reflect not only on the service and sacrifice of those who came before us, but also on what we do with the legacy that they have left behind. We live in challenging times. Many people are feeling the pressure of rising costs, uncertainty, and a world that can at times feel divided and overwhelming. But perhaps one of the greatest challenges that we face is how we treat one another. It can sometimes feel like we've lost the ability to come together respectfully, to listen, to disagree without hostility, and to work constructively towards shared solutions. Too often, we focus on what divides us rather than what connects us. The men and women that we honour today did not stand shoulder to shoulder because they agreed on everything. They stood together because something greater bound them. That same principle still matters. If we are to truly honour their legacy, then we should strive to build a community grounded in respect, where people feel heard, where people are not personally attacked because they take a different view, and where we work together for a greater good. Each of us has a role to play in honouring the spirit of the ANZACs as we go about our everyday lives. Today, as we remember them, may we also take a moment to ask ourselves, am I showing up in a way that honours the ANZAC spirit? Does how I carry myself reflect their legacy? Because the legacy of places like the Claremont camp is not only found in history books, it lives on in our community. It lives on in the way that we look out for one another, in the way we show respect, even when we disagree, and in the way we come together with a shared sense of purpose. If we can carry even a small part of that spirit forward, then their legacy will not only be remembered, it will continue to grow, lest we forget.